Alrighty, no one new has shown up, so we will kick it off. Again, my name is Michael Echave. I'm an AEC technical specialist here at ATG USA. I'm a Bluebeam certified instructor as well as a Bluebeam certified consultant. Here at ATG USA, we are a platinum partner with Bluebeam. We offer instructional courses, either certified courses as me being a BCI, or custom courses in terms of training of Bluebeam Review. Not only Bluebeam Review, but Bluebeam Drawings. You can get an AIA-LU credits here just by emailing your AIA number to y@atgusa.com. Please put your name as well, not just your number, so that we're not just wondering. So what are we going to be covering today? We're going to be talking about Bluebeam Review 20. It is launched. Hopefully everyone here has downloaded it. If not, there will be a link at the end that you all can go to on our webpage to download a free trial of Review 20. And of course, I encourage everyone to upgrade to Review 20. Hopefully you have maintenance on your license. We can talk a little bit about that at the end if you all are wondering about that, to see if maybe do we have maintenance, do we not have maintenance, do you get an upgrade to Review 20. Let's talk about it. This new release makes it easier than ever for your team to get more done together with new user and content management capabilities for greater flexibility and control, as well as enhanced markup tools to help better manage your project data. We will also cover what 40% of customers are not taking advantage of in Review. So for those of us that do have a license of Review right now, we may not be using Studio, which is free with any license of Review. So it doesn't matter if you have Review Standard, Review CAD, or Review Extreme, you have that capability to use Studio. So we will have time to cover a little bit about it. I've already incorporated in what we're going to be talking about when we go through in Review, kind of how we would start up a studio session or a studio project, maybe some admin rights for it, saying who can see what, print, comment. We may go over a little bit about that. And if anybody has any questions at the end, they want to see more about it or how they could utilize it, feel free to ask at the end. I love questions, so feel free to ask any questions you have, okay? So what are our learning objectives? So our learning objectives here are to learn about the new features in Studio that will allow you to adopt the Studio seamlessly into your workflow. We'll also talk about how to maximize your benefit by saving your filters for future data insights, and we will improve your productivity with the improved markup features. And we'll also learn how to use the search function, which is a great new tool as well. And yes, these are little snippets of what it looks like in Review Live. So let's hop right into Bluebeam Review and show you all of the new updates. I will also talk about, if anyone wants to know a little bit of behind the scenes work, what were some of the other options or other things that were what's been fixed in Review. We can go over a little bit about that as well. That's more just chatting about those fixes versus showing you all about the fixes. So let's hop right into Review. First, we're going to start off with Studio. So I'm going to go right into Review here, and let's talk about Studio. And let's go max screen here. So when we're in Bluebeam Review here, we have a panel called Studio. So for those of us that are following along, because I always encourage people to follow along, or you're just listening, watching me, that is also okay. So over here on the left-hand side, I have this function called Studio. It's a panel access here. So if you do not see it in your panel access, you can always right-click, and it's prompting me to do something. I clicked and signed in. You can always right-click, say Show, and you can go down and look for Studio or hit Alt-C to see the panel here. I can always say hi just to show you, hey, I don't see it, everybody, that's okay. You can re-click it, it will pop back up. For those of us that don't have a Studio here, or Bluebeam Id to log into Studio, I suggest you sign in. And when you sign in, you're going to create a Bluebeam ID. Now, this ID is used pretty much everywhere, such as your gateway portal. It also allows you access into drawings. So your first name, last name, and I always suggest here when you're using your display name, please use a professional display name. This is what everyone sees when you are commenting to each other. But again, pick your poison. I'm just suggesting that you use a professional display name here. Your email, your password, it's going to send you a confirmation here. And then you can just sign in each time. Let me remember my password here. And signing in. So once you've signed into Studio, and if all of us that are in here have seen Studio before, it looks a little bit different. Now, when we log into Studio, we can see our Studio projects here. We can see all of the projects that we have joined. We can also see all of the projects that we have not joined yet. Same thing for sessions. So a great new feature is the ability to see what we have joined or have not joined, because some of us may have been invited to a ton of sessions or projects. And we're wondering, we lost the email, it got buried, and we didn't know what we have and have not been invited to. This new feature allows us to see what we have not joined and what we have. This is a great new feature allowing more visibility to what we are going to join or what we haven't. So again, this is a new feature in Review 20. Also, when we're getting ready to create a new session or project, I'm going to start one here, and let's just name it Review 20. You're going to add whatever files you want to add. So maybe I'm going to add some files here. You're going to also set, this is the same dialog box we've had before. You're going to set your options. Are you going to restrict by emails here? Maybe an expiration date. For those of us that have never started a session, sessions is online live collaboration on a 2D PDF or 3D PDF. So right now I'm adding a 2D PDF. I'm going to set some permissions up. We can always go back and reassign this. This is specific to attendees. Can they save as? Can they print? Can they mark up? Can they markup alert? For those of us that didn't know what markup alert does, I will also show you that as well. Can they add documents? Probably not, because I have it deselected. Are we going to restrict attendees by email address? This is a key feature. I always recommend customers and clients to do this feature, because if not, if they have the session ID, they can easily log into it at any time. So restricting attendees by email address means that only the people that are in email address has been selected are allowed to join the session. And does a session expire? This is the expiration date if you want to set one. Maybe there's a certain deadline your clients need to meet to make some markups. Great, there was a question, what's the difference between sessions and projects? Okay, so if you've never used Studio in Bluebeam Review, you have Studio Projects and Studio Sessions. Studio Projects is an online storage system. It can store any file types, such as an Excel document, a PowerPoint, an MP3 or an MP4, Revit files, DWGs. So it's more of an online storage system. It can also store PDFs. When you're working on PDFs simultaneously with another person, it's a check-in, check-out basis. So it's like checking out a book. Me, Michael, I can't check out a book that Joe demo checked out. I have to wait for him to return it before I can check it out to make markups. But I can still see the book if I wanted to. So I can still see the PDF. Yes, I'm using an analogy there. And then the other one is a session. So sessions is online collaboration on a 2D or 3D PDF. So yeah, so sessions is different. It's an online collaboration on 2D or 3D PDFs. Projects is more for storage, okay? That's how I would look at it. So to make it less confusing, if you're trying to work on a PDF simultaneously with other project partners, such as the architect, the engineer, MEP design, right? That's what we're doing in a session, simultaneously working on it. Or maybe we're out in the field and we need to make some markups while we're walking through field punch walkthrough, right? And take some pictures. That would be a session. Studio Projects is for storage. And what am I doing right now? I'm starting a studio session, okay? We'll go into projects in a second so I can show you the difference between them, because that's probably one of the questions and where we're alluding to right here. We don't know the difference. So the session name is Review 20. I'm restricting, I'm not setting an expiration date, hitting OK. So this next window that's going to populate for when we're going to add people once this has been created is going to be the new invitee list, which is a lot more helpful than what it has been before. So right now, this is a new window interface from what it was before. We had the ability to type and paste emails. So all I have to do is copy and paste emails into this window here, and then I can send them out. This is a new feature within Review 20. I can also add emails by group. So for those of us that haven't created specific groups to email from, I currently have. I will show you how to as well. You can simply click down the drop down here, and yes, this is my old school email here, and yes, this is my personal email address, so I'm going to bring that up so you don't see these. But you can simply go through and click them to add them through here, right? I want to email all of them in this group category, or the drop down here to click for them. Then you also have the ability to go to your address book well. So you can go through your address book, allowing you to email directly from here also. This is hooked up to Outlook as my primary address book. We also have the ability to add more options, such as copy the session invitation out. So if you wanted to add that session invitation out, or add an additional message to send to everybody you're sending out to. This allows for a lot easier access, have their own cloud storage system now. That was when we were signing in, you could have chosen which one you're going to. We also have here a little bit different terms now. We can see who has joined and who has not joined the session for the attendees list. So again, this is a new feature. And also we have the step out the door. So for those of us that have been using Studio Session and we know the differences between stepping out the door, which is leaving, or finishing, which is closing the door permanently, right? So leaving means that I'm just stepping out the door and I can come back in. I'm going to go into this live demo one here that I've created a little bit earlier, and I can see some new features here as well. This is a new organization of who is online and who is offline. So Joe Demo is my iPad. He is currently offline. If I prompt my iPad to open up here, let me log into the session via my iPad. For those of us that have never used Studio before, if we're inviting coordination as well, team members in that do not have a license of review, as long as you are the licensee holder sending them an invitation, they can have the full access to review within the Studio session. So my iPad has the free version. I'm on Joe Demo right now. On my iPad, I'm going to open up the drawing here set. Let's open up this set as well. I have two of the same PDFs open. One was saved on my desktop. One was saved in the session. So as we can see here, the difference between, we know which one is my session one and which one is just my regular PDF. This one has the actual icon of what a session is. So now that I'm in here, I'm going to bring this over a little bit so we can get more of a view. I'm going to zoom out here. And now from here, I can go through and start making some markups in my specific session. So I'm on page one on my iPad here. And again, I can start making the markups on my iPad in real time and see what this is. So for those of us that didn't know what live collaboration is, I'm working off my iPad right here, Joe Demo. He just made a markup and I saw it live. So we have that ability to work online collaboration. Yes, I just turned off my iPad. It's giving me a little attendees notification. Again, so we can work live collaboration within Studio Sessions. Down here is my record reports for all of us that have never seen Studio Sessions, because again, we're covering this 40% part that some of us do not know. Here's a running records report, which goes through a running record of everything that's taking place in this session. I can also filter out by certain items such as chat, markup, document, attendees. And also now when I do reports, this is new with Review 20, I filter out by the items selected as well. So this is a new feature within Review 20, allowing us to do that as well. Let's see what else, just in case I'm missing anything within Studio Sessions. I am not. So again, the leave, the new finish button is now hidden under the drop down here, which is great because some people were confused when you were hitting to the left or to the right. There was the leave session and then finish. They were really close to each other. So now it's just in a different area, allowing you to finish the session if you want to finish it out. And again, you can go back to here to the attendees. So who has access to this specific one that we have? Am I restricting it by this email list here, or am I going to invite out with this new invitee list? Now, settings for these, because some people may have questions about the settings or permission settings that we have for it. So over here in the permissions, what can people do? So this is for all attendees. This is what they have the abilities to do. This is for specific groups. Now, if you have not created any groups, you can do that by going to this feature over here on the bottom left. Now this is where you're going to add groups. So you can go through and say, I'm just going to put review 20. This is a new group. And then with review 20, I'm going to add the email address of certain people. And again, as you can see here, I've added different groups here, different email addresses for those. Then you can go back to here. Oops, look that out. Then you go back to here and add the specific group that you want to add to, or by email address. And that is the permission setting for this specific session only. You can also, again, see here your attendees list, again, by groups or by specific email address that you want, or go back to here and get them through this interface. Is finish the session the same as leave a session? Nope. So finishing the session is actually completing the session. The only people that can finish the session is the admin. Person that's generally starting the session can finish. Leaving means I'm just walking out the door and anyone invited can only leave. So that means I'm walking out the door and I can return at any point, okay? This one is for finishing the session, means it closes it completely out. All right, so this is studio sessions. Again, you can add documents right here. I have this one document only added, so if you wanted to add more, only 2D and 3 PDFs can be added. So studio projects here is on the other hand side. So again, you have that same thing, who has joined a session, who not. And what this allows is for online storage. So I'm going to go to my files, share one that I've already created. It's the same creating one. You just say new project, you get the name, and you get to invite people to it as well. So let me expand this out here. I want to keep this PDF open because we're going to be using it later. But here is now a studio project. Actually, you know what? I'm going to open up a different one. This one here. So within this, it allows for on storage. So I can go and store any files if I had any, such a .gg, a JPEG, right? So any 3D PDFs or any Excel documents that I have, allowing to create online storage system. So with either studio projects or sessions, what this is doing, it's creating a copy of from your server and placing it in the cloud. So it is not a through and through connection. It is maintaining a copy of it in the cloud. So if I wanted to create or update something in here, I would need to then save it down to my network, okay? And one question is, okay, we understand how DWGs or Revit files or JPEGs get stored up. Now, in order for me to mark it up, I need to check it out so that I can mark it up as if I were to create any markups on it. Then I can place markups. Then I need to check it back in or update the server copy because maybe, hey, Joe is like, Mike, need to see your markups you're making to make sure you're working, or to just make a new change and then lets me check it back out right away. Just showing whoever is the other person on the other side, hey, now they can see it real quick, what's been updated and what hasn't. Or I could check it in permanently, so then Joe can go and check it out and make some markups. So how PDFs work here are check-in, check-out basis. So I'm going to check it out like a book and then check it back in. Not going to save it. And yes, I'm going to check it in because I would like to. So if anyone else wants to go in and check it out, they can. Also, if you're wondering who has it checked out, right to the left here, you will see an icon. And then if you hover over it, you will see their email. So you can say, hey, Joe, you've had this checked out for over a month. Can you please check it in so that we can start making some markups? Okay, so that's how Studio Project works. It's a check-in, check-out basis. A lot of questions happen is, well, what about permissions? What if I invite some other coordination team members in, but I want them to see everything in this project? You can set that up with folder permissions and some settings in here that you can go through and learn more about. Feel free to email your sales rep. Maybe we can do some training specifically on how we would run this or do any of these. And some questions are always, well, what's this green included sync? Again, we can go over that more in depth later on also. So I'm going to close out this project here, and I'm going to go out of studio sessions and projects. So we are out of studio. I'm no longer in that panel. And now I'm just in my regular PDF here that has some markups. So a new addition to review 20 is the markups list with the updated feature of allowing you to save filters. So before, when we were trying to create filters on how we're filtering out our data from our markups, now I'm just guessing that everyone's used the markups list before. Now, if no one has, please shoot a question or comment in here so I can kind of give you a little bit more info about the markups list. I'm just assuming that you all understand what the markups list is for and have used it before. So from here, again, the filters is what we had before, but it only let us filter out one item and it wouldn't let us save it, right? So if we had this great filter that we were using on one project that's filtering out all of the information that you're like, hey, this would be great if we could reuse this filter because we get the same comments, the same markups from the same specific subject that we need to filter by. Can we save them? So now we have that ability. So with the new selection of the filters here, we now have, instead of it being filtered right next to it where you have to click the funnel to the subject, we can filter by multiple categories here. So I can go down and say, I want to only see the comments from the architect. That's a bad example. Which one has more? So we'll just do all of these. So again, it can be more than one. I think I had, one second. Engineer has more. Okay. So again, I could do more than one, which before we didn't have that ability, right? So hey, oh, now I can see contract and architect, and hey, let's look at engineers as well. And then let's sort a little bit better too by filter here. Let's filter out by the date, past 2 days, which isn't great because I'm the only one that's did these just earlier today. But then I can go to here and say, hey, here's blue, only the ones that had the blue color specifically for them. And now we want to save this filter that we've used before out again. So now what I can do is I can go up here and I can save this new filter that I created that's filtering by the architect, contractor, and engineer, but only the ones that have blue, which is behind this thing. And I want to save this out so I can use it again whenever I feel like it. So I'm going to hit the checkbox here. I've actually done this example before, so I can click it and say, actually, here's the new filter I want to see by. So I can then say, actually clear all the filters, or I can go back to here and select which filter I want to go by as well. So again, we have that ability to keep those. I'm going to delete that old one here just for the sake of it. And then we can say here, or clear all, redo it, or reselect one that's already been selected. Again, allowing us to save these out and save us time, which is huge, right? That's what we're trying to do here is sort this data, print it out. And again, our new export feature just looks like an up arrow for the summary reports that we have if you want to print out a summary report. The next one is on markup. So we update with markup. What did they have for markup updates? I'm going to clear all these selected so it doesn't filter out here. Close down my markups list, and let's talk about some markups. So for those of us that were using the call out and maybe we didn't know we had this ability before, this is always an shocker when we're moving things around, is you can right click on a call out here and you can add a leader. So before it was stuck right here. All I could do is add it from the original origin of adding a call out. But now you can add it from anywhere, any side of your call out where it's at. And also, if I go down in here and say, I don't know, let's go to a different sheet set here that actually has these here. I'm going to go through and add a new box of information here and say, we'll do number 10. I'm going to add a new 10 here. I'm going to change the text for it to black as well to match. And I don't believe it was Velica that we used. Okay, that's fine. But we have a new shape. So now I can go to here and now we have the hexagon shape, which I really like. So I can go into here and change it. And for all of us that didn't know the auto size hotkey, it's the only hotkey I learned as an instructor because we try not to use hotkeys and everyone's like, hey, how'd you do that? So this one is Alt-Z, it's auto size text box. It's also up here in your, I like to call it the dynamic options bar here. But this is the properties options bar here that happens when you're selecting an item, allows the properties for what you're gonna be doing. And then from here, I can then go and say, okay, I have this one, but I can also right click here and add a leader too if I wanted to as well. So that is a new feature again, adding a leader from whatever side you wanted to, allowing it for easier use. There's a question here, do all the members in a studio session have to be on the same version of Revu? No, they do not have to be on the same version of Revu. Just the enhancements are different. So it doesn't matter which version of Revu you are in. You still have that same option for sessions as well. I'm just checking my notes here to make sure I'm hitting on everything that is updated so far. Added the hexagon shape. You can add leaders. They improved the auto sizing function of the text boxes as well. Let's talk about measurements now. So before, when we were making measurements on a PDF here, let me make sure I calibrate this one as well, and not single page mode, full page. Here we go. So from here now, I'm going to calibrate my document. I know this is 30 seconds here. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go to here, 330 seconds, and I'm going to make it at a 1. And now my thing is set to scale here. So if I wanted to go in and actually make some measurements here from here to here, right, I can. So before, what we had the ability to do was we still had some selection, but they were only the dashed items to select from to giving the type of line style that we wanted. But now with Revu 20, we had the ability to go through and select a different line style, such as insulation. So now we can go into here and maybe we wanted to do a, let's do poly length, maybe. Yeah, we'll just do poly length. So maybe we'll do area. So from here to here, maybe we're going to say this area here, here's the square footage, but maybe this is the area that is also going to be pertaining to something different, right? Such as this is the gas area here. So now we have that ability to give it the custom line style that we either out of the box, this is from out of the box review, or we can manage and add them imported or add a new custom line style as well if we wanted to. So we have that ability to go in now and add these custom line styles to these dimension items that we have also. And for those of us that are wondering, how do I use these dimensional tools, or how did he calibrate this document? There are some quick tip videos on our website, which we'll show at the end, or on YouTube, that you can go in and look at these quick tip videos that I've been doing, talking about how to use all of these features. And if you want more in-depth training, we do offer that as well. But again, that is the measurements new feature as well. Next, we've all had those times, even myself, where I forget the name of the tool and where it's located, right? So how can I go in and search for something that I'm trying to find? Wasn't really a feature in Revu that gave us that ability. But now if you go to help, under the Find Tools feature, you can start typing in the keyword of what you're looking for, such as maybe snapshot. Maybe I'm looking for the snapshot tools. So as I start typing it in, it's going to start populating whatever has the keyword in it, such as S. And then I start refining it and it starts showing me the tools that I'm looking for. So this is a key new feature in Revu 20 that I think holds a lot of help for all of us that forget that one. We're in a rush. We can't think of what it is. Now all we have to do is go to this Find tool, start typing in what we want to look for. So let's talk about what has been fixed in Revu 20. For those of us that have had rendering issues, there's improved performance for files containing CCITT encoded images. For those of us that don't know about encoding images or files within viewports and all of that stuff, how can we make sure that we're having the proper rendering speeds that we're having with Revu? I always say there's a quick tip video on how to create So there is no quick tip video on how to create custom line styles. So again, if you go up to here, that we've created personally here at ATG, no, there's not. But you can go to here and manage your line styles, and you can say you're going to create a new one. Title, what's the location of the path for it? It is a .blx file. So you can go into here, you can see the built-in ones if you wanted to go to, or you can go from an existing one if you wanted to create them. So that's how you would go about doing that. There's also images no longer appear as black boxes when using the SKIA rendering engine. They also corrected a problem that was making some AutoCAD blocks containing wipeouts turn solid black when printed from other PDF viewers. AutoCAD files no longer display text masking in Revu when physically printed, and they improved the Revit plugin's ability to convert rooms into spaces. I have done a web tips and trick video on that as well. If you're trying to create spaces from Revit, how do we do that? Optimizing the plugin capabilities. No enhancements in terms of 3D PDFs have been done in Revu 20, but the question was, hey, how can we see a 3D PDF? Yes, I do have one here. Let me go through and open one. Let's see here. So I have a 3D PDF here. Yep. So here's a 3D PDF that I've created before. For those of us that didn't know, this one was done in Revit. So we may not have encountered a 3D PDF before, but this actually holds all of the data. So down here we have the 3D model tree. So I can start looking at what has been created from Revit. So this one was a structural design. I come from a structural design background, so that's probably why you've seen majority of the stuff as structural sets. But I can go and I can actually select one of these items and I can see, oh, I've selected it here in the model tree, just like I've done in the markups list before, and it brings me to exactly where that's at in the actual 3D PDF itself. So there's your 3D PDF for you. A little update on the markups. You can rotate markups by fractional degrees again. They've also corrected a problem that was letting users try to merge counts across pages, even though that functionality is not supported. The snapshot working correctly pages with legends, and a radius node can now be moved for lines that have been converted to arcs. And also in the measurements, this is a new, an additional one, which is subject and label fields now autocomplete correctly when the option is enabled. What does that mean, autocomplete? So when I'm in here, if we don't have that enabled, if you go to review at the top left under preferences, you have spelling, and from here you have enable autocomplete. Now, if you have this function selected, you can add some additional ones here. I only currently have my abbreviation one. So when I'm over to here, let me select the markup that I've created here. I can autocomplete here. So if I delete this text and I type in ME, see how it auto-completed it. So what they did was now correctly, they corrected it when the option was enabled. So it will correctly start to spell out whatever you've added in your autocomplete text is. Instead of having to go to here and having to type it in manually, which would be text box, maybe I put in my autocomplete because it's something I always use regularly for it as well. There were some fixes in the thumbnails. They fixed a problem that was causing a page to stay selected after copying and pasting it from the thumbnails panel. Also, reordering thumbnails no longer causes page label to shift to other pages. And they corrected an issue that was causing Revu to revert to full page mode and lose the zoom level location when the user changed pages from the thumbnail, the panel, while zoomed in on part of the page. Some other options or things they updated was Bluebeam PDF Printer now respects orientation settings when printed from within Revu, improved PDF bookmarks created from the Bluebeam stapler. Alrighty, so let's go through to here. We'll go back to our PowerPoint. Our live demo is complete. Thank you all for joining me today on my webinar about Revu 20. A recording will be sent out to all of the attendees. This is now an open Q&A session. This is the download link if you download it. My name again is Michael Echave. I'm an AC technical specialist. Feel free to follow me on LinkedIn to look out for my tips and trick videos that I create Bluebeam Review. Will you explain again the difference between studio sessions and studio projects? Yes, so studio session is online collaboration, where a studio project is a storage system to gain access to any file types anywhere, anytime. Q&A, is there a way to get a written list of the new features included in Review 20? Yep, if you just go to release notes for review, you can see the full list of them. There's another question, is there a way to set Bluebeam to open all PDFs with the one full page view so documents can be zoomed on without? So review is actually intelligent in terms of its understanding of a larger file size versus a smaller file size. So you have continuous page mode, which is for scrolling continuously through pages, and that is for smaller file sets. So if you open up an 8.5 by 11, review knows it's an 8.5 by 11, so it's going to do continuous page mode. And then you have scrolling pages, which is more meant for zooming in and out for larger page sets. And if you don't know the two features of what's happening in your document set here, and as I'm zooming in and out, I can always hold Control and it can go continuous page scroll. Or I can always use this feature over here, which is one full page, zooming in and out. Or we can do these scrolling pages here too. Two features, or hold Control, whichever is your poison. So yeah, so when you go to calibrate, when you go to calibrate a document, you can, why is it giving me multiple page sales? Oh, because I'm in them. You have your calibration that you want to set to, and you have your precision. So you have your precision to, I have that set to 1 right now. You can do 1/2, you can do 1/4, you can do 1/8 of an inch, you can do 1/16 or a 32nd. So you decide your precision for it when you're going through it. Yes, there's a copy feature, Don Rose. When I'm thinking about what you want to use is the snapshot feature. So if I'm looking to copy, let's say this mark over somewhere else, I can go to edit here, snapshot, or G. It's going to take the exact same copy of it, and I can place it wherever I want to. It's not cutting the content. I can go back out to here, and I can see that that mark is still here. I'm not cutting it. I'm just moving it. It's called the snapshot tool. Another one, when I have files open in review, the files will become blank, and I have to close them and open them back up. What do you think is the cause? For whoever had this question about the files that are taking a while to open, what I like to do always is question what was the source of that the PDFs were written. I always look at that by Control D here. I'm looking at who or what created that PDF, because depending on the coding behind it and how that PDF was written, therein lies usually the question. So from here, I can see who the author was. I can also go into here and say, okay, what was the PDF producer, right? So this is the Bluebeam PDF library here, okay? 2017 version. So that's where I usually always start. And if that is the case, it is not a Bluebeam written PDF. I always go in and create a PDF from Bluebeam itself. So what I do is I go to create from file, and I look for that file, and I create that PDF from there. That's the first thing I go through. And if that doesn't solve your issues, feel free to email me. My email is not shown up here, but I will put it here. And we can troubleshoot it a little bit as well. Alrighty, thank you everybody. Again, if you have any additional questions, feel free to email me, or we can email at ATG USA as well. Again, for all of us that were in here and we're wanting credits for the AIA, we can do that as well. Make sure you email your number over here at the bottom left, yatg@atgusa.com. Alrighty, thank you everyone today for coming out and listening what is new with Review 20. I hope everyone has a good rest of their evening.